Today's upload is for those with more ambition, those who want the real sauce and not just the gravy. The idea is to give you a deeper understanding of what is required to reach the next level. Let's talk mindset, process and target. I'm Tony from Betting Analyst. Let's crack on. So let's move on. What we're not going to discuss in this video is the no-brainer stuff, such as advantage taking, the simple side hustle, value betting, the stuff that anyone can profit from. If that's your level, you should just get yourself across to Rebelbetting, subscribe to their software. We'll put a link up at the end of this video so you can do that if that's your thing and if you need to get your betting bank up a little bit before you get started on the serious stuff. Now, as we're going to get deeper into this today, then we need to do a quick reality check. And the first things first is, it's going to be hard work. It takes time and effort. You're not going to learn this in one day. It's just like any education program, it's going to take you time. If you're going to university, you'll get your bachelor's at the end of it. You'll get your reward at the end of this if you stick at it and you make sure you do things right. So you'll need to understand it is a numbers game and you're going to need to generate your own numbers betting, your own understanding of the actual odds and so on. This type of betting is for those with a risk appetite. Now, if you're one of these frigid players that's just doing level staking and just small bets based on what software is pumping out, this is totally different. You've got to have a feeling for it, and you've got to have the ability and the wish to take it up to the next level, and you do that through your risk appetite. So obviously you need the ability to learn and trust yourself. Some people can learn, but they never trust themselves because they still believe, they're suffering from that delusion that you can't win at this game, and that is very difficult to understand. It probably is, but at the same stage, this is what you're going to have to do if you want to reach that higher level. At this stage, return on investment isn't even a question, because the moral of the story is you're going to be getting down a higher dollar amount. Now, as you know, 1% of a million is a lot more than 10% of 1,000. So think that through. That's the reality checks. Now, getting on to the first part of it is the research. You're going to question yourself whether you are going to be successful at this. So you're going to do your exploration first. You're going to do a little bit of a study in advance, just to see your possibilities. You're going to take into account all the options that you've got with the bookmakers, with betting accounts, with finances, with everything. It's what the lawyers call exploration. You basically do that to see if the business is a viable option for you. And then if you've quite happy and say, you're going to move on and you're going to move to the next stage, then you need to try to gather a full understanding. And obviously you can do this in different levels. You can sort of concentrate on one sport first and then onto another sport afterwards. But at the end of the day, you do need to have a real good understanding of what the odds should be, what everything should be, the situation and so on. And what will help you in this situation is being able to source relevant data. You get a lot for free on the internet, but some of it you're going to have to pay for. So you're going to have to be willing to pay, dig in your pockets a little bit and make sure that you're paying for services. I always look at it like this. If you can make $200 an hour from working, right? Why not pay the cleaner $20 to clean your apartment? You can use that 5 hours extra, where you paid them $100 to earn another $1,000, and that's the same with betting. You've got to be willing to pay for services. Networking could lighten your load, and I would just say try to find people that are on a par with you or have got the same ambition. Maybe somebody that's a little bit of a different character. You might be good at the research. They might be good at the mathematics. Another one might be good at getting the money down or finding solutions to how you're going to proceed in the future and so on. Right. So you do need to be a little bit of a team mentality if you're going to be really big in this game. Also, with staking, Now, flatlining stakes, that's more for the sort of day-to-day profit taker, the person that's doing the advantage taking, like we mentioned before. In this one, you're going to need a little bit more of a feeling for it. You're going to have to understand, you're going to have to apply logic, because that leagues and limits are different. At the end of the day, you can go and get 50,000 on a Premier League game, an NFL game, a big NBA game, right, without even moving the line. But you're going to try to do the same with 500 on a Hungarian football league. You're going to struggle. So this is where you need to apply the logic. Smaller percents of bigger stakes profits are also relevant. So when the opportunity knocks, take it. And by this, I'm really sort of coming around to the idea that when you see something really overpriced, then you really need to pound it. Don't be shy. Don't have that sort of angst and hold yourself back. Yeah. And in this scenario, the sort of buy to sell and the vice versa comes into action. Imagine that, you've got some type of team news, that star strikers out of a football team. The odds are going to change on that football team. They're going to probably drift from 1.6 to 2.0, right? You can flip on the other side and then you can sell off later, on the exchanges. You can either keep all of it or you can just speculate. It really doesn't matter, but you're going to have to learn all this stuff with your staking. So let's get on to the actual understanding of betting itself, right? So first things first, and that is really the motivation. Ask yourself, is that player, is that team, and what about the trainer? Are they being truthful with you, in terms of who they're going to be playing, right? So, for example, take a friendly football game. It should really be a no bet, because it's there for fitness purposes. It's nothing else. It's irrelevant to whether a team wins or it doesn't win. Obviously, you have a little bit of soul in the game and the teams want to win, but the moral of the story is that, they're trying to build up for the points, for what's coming in the future. Friendly games don't bring points. Friendly games don't bring prizes. They just get you match fit. With cup games, as you know, like in England, we have the FA Cup and then we have the AFL Cup, and the lower the grade the cup, the less of the team is going to put out, in terms of quality of players. So a lot of times this is a chance for bench players from bigger teams, and the smaller teams probably want to have a go at it, but it just depends on their position in the league, what they're expecting that season. So ask yourself about the motivation. Do they really want it? In tennis, top players at lower grade tournaments are a worry, because they go there, you think they're going to clean up because it's easier for them. They're the higher ranked player, they should smash it. But listen, why do they want to win a 250,000 tournament that they're going to get maybe 80,000 from, when they can play in a Grand Slam a few weeks later and go for that 8 million big prize money? They get more by winning the first round or the second round, which they progress to at that tournament, than they do from winning this whole tournament. This is just to keep them ticking over. The WTA, for example, they were talking about actually stopping the top 30 players from playing in these type of tournaments because of this abuse. So again, motivation. In basketball, ask yourself, does a big favourite, say a 102 favourite, giving up 17 points in a handicap, do they need to win by more than 17 points? They do for you to collect the bet, but does the team really need to make that effort? If they know they can comfortably win 5 or 6 points, no stress whatsoever, they're going to keep the players fit and avoid injuries for the next game, then that's what they're going to do. So just bear that in mind with the motivation level. Also with horse racing, just a quick touch on that. If you know that your horse is going to be just a racehorse all of its life and nothing else, and it's going to be gelded shortly, right, and it's first time, second time on the track, all you're going to do is trying to get it handicapped. Trainers do this all the time. You see somebody like Sir Mark Prescott does it every year. He will race horses over, first of all, 5 furlongs, the real strong stayers for the future, and he'll just put them in just to get them a handicap marker quickly, and then next year he'll get them fit, he'll step them up in distance, and they'll win 5, 6, 7, 8 races because he's abused the handicap system. Also, you've got to think about, the typical punter's betting mentality. Punters like betting something to happen. They want more goals in the game. They want more points in a basketball, NFL and whatever, right? They just want to see something happen that's positive. And the bookmakers know this. So imagine that a bookmaker thinks that a football game is exactly a 50-50 chance, so true odds of 2 and 2. He would probably go 1.95 on the under because he knows that he just wants 5 cents on that. And he'd go 185 on the over because he knows that's what everybody's going to be betting. But of course, he's taking the action just in case the professionals are going on the other side. But a lot of times, you want to bet against what the sheep are doing, and that's particularly the case in this something to happen. Location logistics, that's country bias. Imagine, a US boxer fighting a British boxer, right? The place to bet the British boxers in the US, and the place to bet the American boxers in the UK, because they're adapting the odds to their market. They know where the loyalty is going. The big team following is the same. You think about it, the likes of Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they're known all over the world. People want to bet them. They think they're going to win every game. And so instead of being, when they're playing the small team, instead of being like a 2.25 goal favourite, they're 2.5 goal favourite. So often the value is on opposing the bigger teams. Right, and then of course chasing the steam. This is the mentality of the typical punter. They see, oh, look at that one, it's dropped from 10 to 1 to 5 to 1, so I want some of that action. But the moral of the story is that the value is long gone. The probably value, the midterm point was probably 7 to 1, so they're now taking under the odds. So you've got to avoid that, and you've got to actually do the opposite. You've either got to identify it at an early stage where you can sell it off, or just avoid it altogether. Right, so we're going to talk about now quickly, I touch upon in-play betting. I would definitely say you need to have a natural feeling for this. You need to immerse yourself and see if you have got the feeling for understanding of the game itself. But even if you're not going to involve yourself in the in-play betting, you can use it for like record odds. Because at this stage, right, you're reverting back to the bookmaker's opinion. So let's just imagine that they're throwing up like a tennis game of, and they've got 1.9 on both sides, and the favourite goes down to say 1.65 before the game, and the other one's 2.2, right? Then when the game actually starts, before even a point is taken, the bookmakers sometimes recall the odds, and they might go, back to sort of 1.8 and 2.0 or something like this on the game. So, this gives you the option of jumping on early and getting the record odds of, the first show prices as such. So you've got to learn how to use this system and get a feeling for it, right? I would also definitely say that for people who want to learn in-play betting, best of two is easier. So, ATB, WTA, anywhere where you've got a head-to-head, one person against the other, because you've only got a certain amount of factors. And, things like body language can easily be read on the game. Whereas imagine that a football team, one of the players was playing poorly, the coach could say, okay, I'm taking him off and replacing him. So, these are things that you've got to think about, right? You might want to consider favourites recovering. Again, this is this happens a lot in basketball. You see that the favourite is a big, strong favourite before the game, but they're trailing and they're in the last quarter. There's 7 minutes to go. Now the other team start to tire, and the favourite comes back and wins it, right? So often, you can create yourself better value by knowing and timing your bet as the favourite recovering. In terms of, we want to get onto a couple of the sports now, so, to give you a bit of juice on it, right? So with horse racing, it's very important to understand the betting market. If you see the odds going down on something in the morning, you've seen it go down from like 10 to 1 to 5 to 1, it probably means very little. It might, the first person might have triggered that by having maybe 500 on across 4 or 5 bookmakers. They've all overreacted. They've gone to 7 to 1, right? Others have seen this. They've jumped in and they forced the price down. So, this sometimes recalls later, goes back out, and but the line movement is more important near the actual start of the race as opposed to before. So obviously the key is knowing when to bet, get a feeling for it. But again, if you know something, maybe you don't want to show your cards too early because you get less on. You can show your cards later. and so on. Yeah, I would also definitely suggest that you use multiples for leverage, because sometimes you can get more money on this way because you can hide bets. So if you've really got 2 or 3 strong things in a day where you think they're going to win at nice odds, right, you should be mixing them up in accumulators and probably multiple bets, and also probably considering adding a few more tips to them, right? And if you do that, then you can create some really big juice at the end of the day. Yeah, and this is also just one thing I'll touch upon, is that a lot of professional punters have made that big leap up that snakes and ladders board by eating a big Yankee or a jackpot bet, something like that. It really triggers that profit, and that's what you want. Right. With foreign racing, bookies lack knowledge, and they've got a massive bias, right? So you often see UK or Irish trained horses, they're racing in France. UK bookmakers have got them 5 to 2, 3 to 1, but on the PMU, you see an 8 to 1. Now, what that does for you, then you've got a few options, haven't you? You can go to the exchange, either lay them because they're of no real value. You can go to the bookies and bet against them, some of the others, because you've created more value on the others. Or what about the PMU option? If you think that horse is actually going to win, it's got a favourite chance, you might want to try to get yourself on the PMU. And just one last thing on the PMU, if you are a really big better, you might want to strike a balance with somebody, where you can get yourself a bit of a rebate, right? If you're paying 95 cents on the dollar for every bet, right, getting a 5% rebate, right, it gives you a much bigger chance. So if your profits was 10%, and you could get it up to 15 by doing that, why not? With WTA tennis, I like WTA tennis because it's less predictable, and that creates the potential of a chance. But I would say it's the number one for quick learning, because there's only so many factors involved, and you can soon get into it. So by watching, you've only got to learn about 100 or 200 different players, what surfaces they're good on, what they've been motivated by, whether it's relatively easy to get into the understanding. We've done another video on that. I could link that up at the end if you wish to take into consideration what's going on. Yeah. I would also suggest that you look at early rounds more, because that's where the juice is. People that are betting on finals, the bookmakers have been watching it all week too. So, by this time, they only offering one game. They can assess it a lot more. They've watched all the games before. They're not confused by, the other sort of 16 matches that are going on at the same time, right? They can concentrate. So there's less juice for you, betting juice, in the later rounds than there is in the earlier rounds. Also think about tournament proximity. If a player's done well at a tournament the week before, then and now they're appearing, a day later at another tournament, they could be suffering fatigue. They've had no time to train, right? The journey's been tiring. The exploits of the week before has cost them. So just think about the tournament proximity, and even the game proximity. Imagine that they played a match the night before and it went late at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're first up the next day at like 11 o'clock. They've not had time for a proper night's sleep, and that could affect them as well. So think about that. With in-play betting, you can do some like momentum riding. As 6, sometimes 7, does 6 games, 7 games is what's going to win a set. So if a player storms into a 3-0 lead, you see that the odds on the other player goes drastically out, right? And this gives you the option. This gives you the chance for only one breakdown that could easily be bought back. They could could sort of trigger them. Yes. So also that watch for fast starters in particular, because you can actually bet before the game, then you could sell it as soon as it went in play, and try to figure out what actually kickstarts a player. This might be actual the opponent. It might be a couple of good points. It might be finding this just what's going to trigger that player. And if you see it happen, then that it's maybe the time to sort of step in with the sort of in-play betting on WTA or ATP, come to that. So the last sport that we want to touch upon is football. A couple of factors. End of season goals. Now the Bundesliga, for example, it's end of season right now. the last 7 seasons of the Bundesliga, from the 9 matches, at least seven each season went over 2.5 goals. So that's an option for you. You can literally, if you find trends, you find statistics, you find stuff that you can support and think that the average is going to go up because of that reason, right? You can just go in blind and literally cover the whole league, right? At the end of the day, if you're getting 7, you only need an average odds of 1.4. So if the true odds before the game are 1.8 and the bookmakers are acting down to 1.65, you've still got value, so think about that for yourself. Yes. The big team bias, that's another factor. We discussed that earlier with the sort of Barcelona, Manchester United and so on. Bookmakers tend to price them down. Urgency doesn't necessarily inspire efficiency. It often creates exaggerated odds. Imagine that earlier on in the season, a third bottom team is playing a middle team away, right? That third bottom team is probably odds of 4. If they, in say Spanish Segunda, the league, that team might be on the day because they need the final day of the season because they need those 3 points. That middle team doesn't. They might be 1.8, 1.9. So all of a sudden you've got that discrepancy. The true odds earlier in the season would have been 4 and it's 1.9, and the probable true odds are somewhere in between. So people are chasing what they think is urgency, and they're making mistakes. It's like if you go and do yourself a bit of statistical reading and go through form over the last few years and look at the odds of what happened on the last day, team positions, right? Different leagues, different stuff, but this, you've got to try to find out about the seriosity. Also, competition effect. Players away on international duty, as you know yourself, the top players tend to be picked by their countries, and that means that the top teams are normally, devoid of people staying at home at this stage, whereas the lower teams in that league probably only lose 2 or 3 players to international duty. So, think about that. They haven't had time to sort of prepare for the next game. Also in things like Champions League, Europa League, they might have travelled 2,000 kilometres during the week for an away game, an important away game, and then they've got to come back and play on Saturday, an away game somewhere else, right? They're not going to be fully prepared, and you'll see a lot of weird results after these type of competitions have taken place. Also, think about the weather conditions. People say when it rains, the goals go down, but it's not necessarily true. If it rains lightly, the pitch gets faster and the ball slides off it and there's more goals. If it rains heavily, you could flick the goalkeeper, the ball could go over the edge, land on the line, not go in. So, every ground, less goals, faster ground, more goals. And, consider also about stuff like team news. Some coaches reveal everything. You got like Steve Cooper, Nottingham Forest, he'll tell it the way it is. And then, the likes of Marino and David Moyes, if they say, this player's only 20% fit, you can pretty well guarantee he's going to turn up on a Saturday because they're just bullshitting. So, yeah, that's about the only things that we want to touch upon. We hope that we can get you into, give you the proper feeling for this game. And, yes, if you can, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching again. You're through to boot camp, but we'll catch you in the next one shortly. Take care for now. Bye-bye.